innovation. Is that right, Andrew?
Yes. Thank you. Morning, everyone, and welcome. Just set things up. Okay, sorry. Good morning. As Julian said, most of what I've been doing recently is in the past couple of years as an instructional coach in the school, and what that means in our school is effectively it's mentoring. So it's working with new scheme teachers and experienced teachers, as we said, and sort of helping them through the accreditation process. So as a result of that, the sort of second line in that but anyways, standards, accreditation, other scary words. So a few years back, when I first saw the standards, it was just a lot of writing. It's quite daunting, really, for me. But as I've got to know those a little bit better, it's effectively helped me to become a better teacher and help those around me become better teachers as well. So it's something it's really important. As I asked, so this year I'm working with a colleague in my department who's going through the experienced teacher accreditation, and I said to him, yes, I said, well, so what are you getting out of it? And basically he said, I'm just quoting here, it said, it's made me do things I wouldn't have done before, and many of those things have helped me become a better teacher. So he's referring to the fact that going through the standards and gathering evidence to show that you've reached each particular standard. Sometimes if you've been teaching for a while, or if you're new, sometimes you'll be trying new things, or sometimes you'll have to do things that you haven't quite done for a few years. And so it's making you think about what you're doing a little bit more and helping you progress. And he also said yesterday, he said, well, it's kind of like being thrown into a PD river. And it's quite an interesting thought, but in that, in doing the accreditation process, it's kind of like PD in that you are progressing, you're learning how to address the standards, you're trying new things, or you're doing things that you haven't done for a while, and that sort of thing. And as a result, it's helping you grow as a teacher. So,
Is it on? Is it on?
Yeah, that's good.
At the side, is it
on this side. Here we go.
just let me know.
Right. Sorry about that. So as I said, I'm an instructional coach, and the head of department kind of happened. We had some restructuring at the start of the year, and so our head of department moved up to a position in the school, and so I'm sort of filling in that role at the moment. And I found in that role that having been an instructional coach was really, really helpful, because I had worked with a lot of staff, and a lot of what you do as a head of department at the moment, part of what you do is in fact sort of pastoral care of your staff, and so you're working with staff, and so learning how to speak and listen and all those sorts of things as an instructional coach has been really helpful, which has got me thinking that, you know, in our school the way it's set up is the instructional coaches are just normal teachers basically, because of the load of the head of department. But within a department, particularly if you're in a smaller school, I guess, as a head of department, that's kind of your role. So for us, it works a little bit different to the way it might work in other schools. So that's me for the moment. What I would like to actually find out is a little bit about you and your experience or knowledge of accreditation and the standards and so forth, so we can move on a little bit. So if you have an internet-connected device, the network's up there, but if you've got a phone or an iPad or something, Socrative is a little tool that allows you to do little quick surveys or quizzes and those sorts of things online. All you need to do is basically, if you go on into the internet and if you click Socrative Student, just do a search, Socrative Student. See what happens. Now, if you click Socrates student, it will ask you for a room number, which is 55043, and as a result, you can hopefully get into that room. Now, work out. Okay, it's working. So if you type in the room number just 55043, there's basically two questions. See lots of people going in. 3, 6, 12, 13. Anyone need a hand or? Going. Okay.
There we go. Sorry.
Excellent, thank you. So on my iPad, it shows me just with this Socrates. If you haven't come across it before, on my iPad, as people entered the room number, it started filling out anonymous, and then as everyone fills in the question, it comes up with A, B, C, or D as to which question you answered. So I can see that 4 people have done both questions. See that it is possible to select 2, so you know. So it's 55043. This little tool is something you can use in a classroom. You can do a true, false, or a multiple choice. You can make different sorts of questions. So you can just make a little vocab quiz. It's very easy to use this tool as vocab quiz. And you can see it as a student, you don't have to sign up for anything. You just put in, as long as you've got an internet connection, you put in the number. You can do it on any device, computer. So it's quite handy to do that. And so I'll give it another couple of minutes and see what happens. See.
I can't get in. So which best forum describes you best? Currently going through accreditation. Which forum best describes you?
Okay, so most people have responded. Thank you. Now, if I click finish, I may not be able to get in there. On my iPad, when I click finish, it gives me the option to view chart. You can get a little bit of a report on what has happened in terms of the quiz. So, essentially, it gives you an idea of, from that I could get an idea of the standards and knowledge of the standards and those sorts of things. So, with that, might be drawing a bit of a long bow here, but what I've perhaps done there is almost addressed one standard. It's probably more standard 343. Assist colleagues in creating, selecting, and using a wide range of resources, including ICT, to engage students in their learning. So, I've kind of, which is 343, 263, model high-level teaching knowledge and skills and work. This is the standard for highly proficient teacher, which involves ICT. So, I don't know, if I was going through accreditation, might be, as I said, stretching it a little bit, but I might be able to use this as evidence for my accreditation. These are the sorts of things. So in terms of going through accreditation, and a lot of people here have done that, and so they're kind of aware, it's about gathering the evidence. And in order to do that, you need to sort of, you need to plan ahead and know what you're doing. So you can think, well, I do that activity with my class, that's referring to standard, whatever it might be, 1.1. I can use that, and then you can bring that in to your teaching or to the people that you're mentoring, help them to do that, help them to see what they do and how it can be used to gather evidence. So it's kind of thinking ahead, and planning is sort of the main thing. So gathering evidence is the key, I think, to going through accreditation, and then at the end it's the annotations. It's the annotations that you write about how you've addressed the evidence, but in the end it's the evidence that's the crucial thing, because that's what we do in the teaching. So, not sure if I've filled that. Okay, so the AITSL website, if you haven't been to the AITSL website, it's got a lot of really valuable things on there. So if you're going through accreditation, or if you're helping people go through accreditation, it's a really handy resource, and it has, if I flick over to it, Alt-10, is it? So if we go onto there, no, it's not doing that. Okay, sorry. We are there on the screen, but on the AITSL website, it has the different standards, and it gives you, for each level, graduate, proficient, highly competent, lead, and if you click on show illustrations, it's really handy. If you're thinking, well, hang on, I'm not really sure how to address a particular standard, most of not all of them, but a lot of the standards on the AITSL website will have click show illustrations, and then it'll give you an illustration of how you can reach standard 1.1. There's not many on there that are related to languages, but there are 2 or 3. So, but I mean, the more, as an instructional coach in my school, I visit other subject classrooms and watch, and it's not, we'll teach students basically. So it doesn't matter what the subject is, you can usually get something out of another subject that you can use in your teaching. So they have, that's something to do with PE or dance or something. So there are illustrations of practice on the AITSL website to help you do that. The other site that is useful for accreditation is the AIS, the Independent Schools one, which has, again, links to the ISTA and the BOSTES. Now what that is, ISTA is, and both BOSTES and ISTA are licensed to accredit teachers, basically, at different levels. So ISTA does particular levels. So if you go in ISTA, they assess the submissions from proficient, experienced, professional excellence, and professional learning. And then for BOSTES, you have the lead teacher and the highly accomplished, as well as the proficient. Yeah, so they're the places that we get accredited. Sorry, I'll do that to here. Does that work? Hang on, how do I get the
That's right. The PowerPoint.
Yeah. The other bit. What's that? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so so the standards. How well do we know the standards? Some people, if you've been through accreditation, you probably know them too well. You're very sick of standards. So what I thought we might do, might try something. Okay, so I've got some standards, and I'll pass these out into sort of groups of 3 or 4. But there's some standards in here. They have the number of the standard below it. They have the number of the standard, but for each standard there's 3. There's the graduate, proficient, highly accomplished. Your task is to just looking at them, reading them, having a talk about them, work out which one's which. So put them in. So if you've got like 7.4, you've got 3 of them. Which one's graduate? Which one's proficient? Which one's highly accomplished? So there's a quick task of spreadsheet. So 3. Sorry, I ran out.
That's alright. I'm hopeless at it.
That's right, yeah. You have that. You have that written. It's on there somewhere.
Probably everything.
How do I access my results for these? A report has been added to your Google Drive. Huh. I don't know. I just wanted to see it. That's right. It's been added to my Google Drive.
Yeah, I think you can even fill them right there. Yeah, let's put graduate and then go down. Graduate.
I was finding this Wi-Fi quite slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I went back to just my 4G and I thought it's
I'm
easier.
trying to hook up to my phone.
Yeah.
I think I have.
See how we went. So, firstly, how did various people find that exercise? Would anyone like to make a comment? How did you find that?
It was
Interesting? In what way?
That's a load of words.
Well, in the sense that you think that you know them, but after they're a little bit tricky.
Yeah. Sometimes when you look at
you don't
them,
know exactly at which level to put them in. It's good that we could discuss it amongst our 3, but it was the truth.
it is, yeah. Because sometimes they look quite similar, and you think, well, okay, which one is which? What works? How did you determine which one was which? Was there a particular way you worked it out? Pardon? Exactly. So, exactly. That's what it's all about, pretty much, is looking at the verbs. So, I'll just run through what they were. So the first one was 1.1, I think. A couple of people went through that. So the proficient level 1.1 was the implement and evaluate teaching and learning programs. Sorry, am I on the right one? No, that's the wrong one. Sorry, that's 2. Demonstrate knowledge and understanding of physical, social, and intellectual development. The proficient use teaching strategies based on knowledge of students, and the highly accomplished select from a flexible and effective repertoire. Okay, so that's 1.1. 2.4 was it? 2.6. Sorry. So 2.6 we have proficient implement teaching strategies for using ICT. The next level, use effective teaching strategies to integrate and of course the highly accomplished model high-level teaching knowledge and skills. 3.2. Okay, the lower level plan lesson sequences using knowledge of student learning. Middle level plan and implement well-structured learning, and then highly accomplished work with colleagues to plan, evaluate, and modify learning. So that's 3.2. 4.5. Demonstrate an understanding of the relevant issues. Is it 4.5, was it? That's, yeah, so 4.5. Yeah, 4.5. Demonstrate an understanding of the relevant issues, and then the proficient. Proficient incorporate strategies to promote the safe, responsible, ethical use of ICT, and then high-level model and support colleagues. 5.1. Thank you. It's not in order on here. I don't know what I did. So the lower level, demonstrate understanding of assessment strategies, including informal and formal. Then the next level, develop, select, and use informal and formal. And the high level, develop and apply a comprehensive range of assessment strategies. 6.1. Yes. Demonstrate an understanding of the role of the standards. Middle level, use the standards. And then the higher level, analyze the standards. 7.14. Here we go. 7.4. Okay. 7.4, here we are. Understand the role of external professionals and community representatives. Middle level, participate in professional community. And then 7.4 is contribute to. So, how do we go? But, basically, if we talk about the standards, we're talking about, and there's an amazing chart down there, but we're talking about the three domains of knowledge, practice, and engagement, and the three domains within the standards is subdivided into. And so you've got know students how they learn, know the content, how to teach it, and then in practice you've got plan for and implement effective teaching and learning, create, maintain, supportive and safe learning environments, assess, provide feedback, report on student learning, and then engagement, engage in professional learning, engage professionally with colleagues. So there's the three domains, and within those you've got the standards, which lead to the levels. So you've got graduate. Proficient is assessed by ISTA and Golstes. So in terms of, the question 4 was asked, what happens when you put your submission in? Okay, when you put your submission in to either ISTA or Golstes, it will be assessed by a team of assessors, a panel will look at your submission. They will look at the evidence guide to see that it all matches up, see that your references actually address the standards. So basically there's a team of assessors that look at that, and then it's passed, or it may be given back to you just to adjust a few things, and then you resubmit. So I've done that. I've been on that assessor panel last year and the year before. For last year was for professional excellence level. So I'm in an independent school, so it was with ISTA that I was doing it. So I've looked at a submission at professional excellence, which is slightly different in that it covers the 8th standard. There's another standard which is knowing about your community and the school community, so it's sort of beyond the school as well as within the school. But I've also looked at the proficient and experienced teacher, and basically you sit down and you go through the standards, you go through the evidence that has been submitted, tongue-tied here, but, and you match up, make sure everything has been addressed, and you look at it, and if it's all good, it's passed. And then if there's one or two things, it might be sent back because the reference didn't quite explain how exactly that they address the standards. So the thing to do is with the levels they have an evidence guide, which gives you an indication of what you need to do, okay, and how you need to do it. So the first step is to look at the evidence guide and the standard and think, okay, which activity in my class or outside of my class or in my network can I use to address this standard? And then you gather the evidence. It might have been something that you've done already, or a program, or something like that. A conference presentation, perhaps in terms of standards 6 or 7. And then you gather the evidence, you put it all there, and then you write the annotation. The annotation is basically what the assessors read, and it tells them how you've addressed the standard. So they'll read the annotation, and then they'll go, okay, it says that they've done that, have a look at the evidence, yep, that works, okay, or maybe, that's not quite enough, that's not really the right area for that. And so that's pretty much the way it works. So ISTA and BOSTES look at proficient. Experienced teacher is done, that's what I've working with one of my colleagues in the language department at the moment who's going through experienced teacher, which is kind of like highly accomplished, but when you look at the standards, highly accomplished a little bit above it, I'd say, a little bit above it. So that experienced teacher is more your classroom teacher, whereas a highly accomplished looks more like a lead teacher.
Fair to say that, apologise if it's not, but the experienced teacher option is more favourable for people to go for it. Like, why would you go for experienced teacher? Is because it's, in most schools, it's linked to their pay scale.
Probably, yeah.
Because I think there is some confusion in school communities about the difference between the two. Really, experienced teacher is if you're in a band school, a band school,
Yep.
you need to move from 2 to 3. You need an experienced teacher. Whereas if you're already, for whatever reason, at a band 3, there's really no point in going experienced teacher. You should be aiming for your qualification.
Yeah, so, essentially that's right. I think if you're sort of pre-2004, I think it is, and haven't had to go through accreditation, then you'd go for a highly accomplished. But if you've sort of been through proficient in independent school, you'd go to experienced teacher, which is the next level. And as was just said, basically, at least I know within our school, that puts you in the next pay band. So a lot of people do it for that.
Probably good to clarify though that each system, of course, is different in terms of this. So the Catholic system, the independent system, and the Department of Education system follow slightly different methods. And so the ISTA and the experienced teacher and professional excellence, if you're in a DET school and going, what is Andrew talking about, don't worry, because it actually doesn't exist in your setting. Okay, so it's crazy that we're not all the same, but that's life in education, isn't it? So
exactly. And it took me a little bit of time to get my head around sort of when I was sort of preparing for this, in that I'm used to experienced teaching, and I'm like, highly accomplished, where'd that come from? Because within our school we haven't got that. So when I was looking, I was thinking, well, yeah, that's what I'd go for. I wouldn't do experienced teacher because highly accomplished is kind of, as currently as an instructional coach in the head of department, that's pretty much sums up what I do perfectly. So yeah, if in a DET school you sort of look at where the BOSTES ones are, that's kind of what you're looking at. Yeah.
And for anyone who is interested in the experienced teacher accreditation, they are currently, they're trialling out an action-based research way of doing that accreditation. I'm currently doing that at the moment, and it is a really interesting way of doing the accreditation if you are interested in a particular subject or in a particular area. For example, I'm looking at critical thinking languages, and so therefore all my standards link back to that particular project. Whereas if you do just a standards-based approach, you need to meet all 47 standards. Whereas the action research approach looks at focusing on 27 standards as well as standard 8.
Yeah. Have you found that it sounds to me more practical as well in that?
It is more practical. It's a lot of work. It does involve literature review, which, depending how many years you've been out of uni, it can be quite tedious. But the reading is always interesting and focuses you on exactly what you want to do in the classroom. But it's just a different way of doing it, and so at least you've got that option.
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Evidence. How many years can you go back? Which then, what is the cut-off time? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years of evidence, or in terms of it being current?
It's pretty much current as far as I know. So, for example, I know that for the experienced teacher, which and I'm guessing that for the boss levels as well, it's within. So, for example, you've got a couple of years within to do it, and there's the start point is pretty much just before when you start going through accreditation. So, Richard I'm working with is going through ET at the moment, and he started basically started term 4 last year, and he can use evidence from the 1st of September through. So you can't sort of go, oh, God, I did this 4 years ago. You can't really. I don't think you can do it that way. It's got to be current. Yeah. Sorry. Yep.
My understanding of that is that once you apply for the accepted application, it's on that date.
Yeah.
You can use it
Yeah.
until when you complete.
I think it depends on the level.
It does depend on the level, yeah.
With highly accomplished teacher, once you pay your money, you've got 3 years to collect all your evidence, but you can use the evidence within from a year or possibly 2 years before you've paid your money. So you've got about 5 years to.
Okay.
Yes, and I think with lead it's actually longer. I think you get more lead time. I think you have 3 years. So I think there's an acknowledgement that if you're actually at a highly accomplished level, there are things that you've actually been doing that you can use towards that. And the same with lead, and they give you more time.
So yeah. So the levels and with the evidence, I think I'm pretty sure that it depends on what level, what those limits are. For me, what I've learned is that there is another standard, and that's to know the standards and how to use them, pretty much. So, if you're going through accreditation, or you're thinking, or you're helping someone through accreditation, get to know them. They are your friend, and know how to use them. Know how to sort of adapt things to suit each particular standard. So, for me, that is the most important standard, and it encompasses all the others. So, graduate, proficient, highly accomplished, different levels. Sorry, as we were going through that exercise before, a few people said, okay, well, yeah, it's about the verbs. And it is about the verbs. So, when I was working on the assessor panel, that you do a day training before you actually do the assessing, and it's all about the verbs. Like you go through and you highlight everything and you go, well, okay, what is it? And that's exactly how it works. So if you're a graduate, you look at a lot of the ones that repeat themselves: organise, describe, understand, demonstrate, plan, use. So it's sort of that straightforward level. Okay, we move up to proficient, and it's use, design, implement, identify, participate, establish. So there's sort of a higher level there in that it's not just using what other people have done, you're also designing, you're creating, and you're participating in things. So if you move up to experienced teacher, and there's again, design and implement come together a lot. A lot of the standards start with design and implement. So when you're assessing, if it's a program that they've created, it has to be one that person has created. They can't use a program someone else has made. They have to make it themselves. They have to design and implement the program. So that's sort of at that level. And then at the highly accomplished level, the one that stands out the most is support colleagues. So I was looking at that earlier as well. But it often comes up with support colleagues, assist colleagues, support work with colleagues, model and share, develop and share with, develop and apply, initiate and engage. So that level, so if there's a few people in here sort of thinking about that level, then it's a matter of thanks. It's a matter of thinking, well, okay, those verbs are different, But if you're a lead teacher or a head of department or that sort of level, that's kind of what you do. You are supporting your colleagues. You're developing things for your department. You're modelling, you're evaluating, you're doing all sorts of things. So if you're thinking about going through that highly accomplished level, then you probably do a lot of those things already. It's just, I guess the more you've been teaching, the less aware you are that you do them, because that's just what you do. So the other good thing about going through highly accomplished is that it helps you reflect on what you do and how you do it. And that, of course, that reflection, any sort of reflection is going to help you improve or become a better leader, or become a better teacher. And if you're helping those around you go through, it's going to do the same for them. And ultimately, it's going to help the students. So it is something that is really valuable, I think. It does take a bit of work, but if you put in, and it does, as I said, it's that reflection that helps you get there, I think. But excuse me. So, what makes a good mentor? As I said, I did something a little bit odd. So it says here, I know I'm at the stage of my career where I'd like to help other teachers grow and progress further in their journey. I feel I've developed effective organisational and interpersonal skills that have helped me develop a mutual trust and respect with all those I've worked with. I believe I'm sensitive to the needs of those around me and respected for my discreetness. Okay, I can liaise with other people. I dragged this out when I applied for an instructional coach at my school. This is from my application letter. Okay, and I thought, because I read through it, and I thought, well, hang on, yeah, it's kind of true. They are the qualities that I think are important. So, again, this is from the same letter. I've seen someone who's gone through it, and I know that they will appreciate someone who listens, can help set and achieve goals, and knows that it is a shared journey. So, I sort of look back at that, reflect if you like, and I thought, well, okay, yeah, they are the skills that I have used as a mentor / instructional coach, helping people go through accreditation and those sorts of things. And it's about that shared journey. It's a partnership. So a partnership approach. At our school we did some work with Jim Knight, who talked about instructional coaching, mentoring. He's done a lot of work. He's from Kansas in the States, but he's done a lot of work on instructional coaching, mentoring, all those sorts of things. And he came and did a couple of sessions with us, and he talks about that partnership approach. So in terms of mentoring, helping people through accreditation, it is that shared journey. You're working together, and he talks about basically the things that you need to do that. Provide choice, okay? Give them a voice, so the person you're mentoring, so that they can express their points of view. So you're talking about dialogue, which essentially is learning to listen again, listening, okay? Listening more than speaking, and then guiding. Talks about equality, so the importance between the relationship between equals. So you might be working with a new SCIM teacher straight out of uni or someone on a higher level, but it doesn't matter what level they are, you can learn from each other. I know for me, I've been teaching for a while, so for some stagnant ideas, but you speak to other people, you listen, you learn, and you use their ideas, everyone grows from it. So it's that partnership approach, reciprocity, a word I have trouble saying, but it's a two-way street, basically. Again, you learn from each other. Then you have reflection and praxis. So reflection, basically allowing teachers to consider ideas before they're adopting them. Reflect on the ideas, see how they can use them, putting them in practice, reflecting on whether it's worked or not, and then practice again is basically reflecting on what you put into practice. So they're the sort of the principles that I've found, again, have worked. And when I look at it, I don't walk around thinking, okay, dialogue, voice, etc. But it's what we do. If you work with people in your department or you've mentored people before, that's kind of, they're the essentials, I think. So I just change tack a little bit. I just talk about how we work at our school in terms of IC. So IC at our school at Knox is instructional coach. So what we do is we have time. We're very lucky, by the way. We have time in our timetable for professional development, for professional learning. So once a fortnight, every member of staff goes into a room with an instructional coach who just leads, and we do some sort of professional learning. So we've done discussion. It might be a discussion. It might be an online learning. It might be doing some sort of little research. So we've done a whole heap of things like that, and sometimes it's doing compulsory online courses as part of your teaching as well. But that's every fortnight. So the workshops. So recently, the one that we're doing at the moment was an ICT based one about using Google Classroom. So once a fortnight, one period, everyone comes together in a little group, and the group is led by the instructional coach. Then the other thing we do is mentoring and observation. So within that learning hub that we have, everyone in there, we talk with once a year, set goals, work out what their goals are, and do a lesson observation. So this has started to happen more and more over, I guess, the past 5 years in our school, whereas everyone in our school, within a year, will have their lesson observed by a coach, an instructional mentor. And it's not going in there to see what's going badly. It's the teacher. You sit down with the teacher. So basically, you have a where are we? Just jump ahead. So basically, you have a pre-meeting. You find a goal. You talk about how they're going with the teaching and what they want to do. You find a goal. The teacher creates a lesson plan, or you work out a lesson that you can go to. You work out. They do a lesson plan. You go to the lesson, and most of those lessons are videoed. In the first year we did it, not many people. Second year, more and more. And now we're at the stage where pretty much everyone is happy to have a video stuck in the classroom at the back on their lesson. We as the instructional coach, what happened there? But we as the instructional coach just edit that video into like a 10-minute, 12, 15-minute section, the bit that the teacher would like to see or focus on, so the focus area of the lesson, and then we edit that, send it to them, they watch it. We get together after they've watched it and have a talk about what they saw. And the way we do that is, it's about listening, and it's about asking the right questions. So initially, when I first did it, I went in there thinking, okay, yeah, I want to know this too. But then after a while, you learn that no, you just listen. You ask the right question here and there, the person that you're talking with will eventually get that light bulb moment and go, yeah, that's right, yeah. So generally we walk in and the first question is, okay, well, that section of the lesson you watched, how happy were you? Put it on a scale of 1 to 10. What would you give yourself? And so most people, 7, sometimes 8. I haven't had a 10 yet. And so then it's, well, what can you do that? How would you do that? Were you happy with what were you doing? What were the students doing? And once you get the right questions happening, people will suddenly think, okay, yeah, I could have done that. We throw in little ideas, and it's a conversation. So the debrief is perhaps the most important part of that. So they watch the video, and having done that myself, it's really valuable. The first time you do it's a bit eye-opening. Watching yourself, tend to prance around the room a bit. Holding back today, but when I first saw that, I was like, "What, do I really do that?" Okay, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, do it better, and that's really, really, really valuable. So those are a big part of what we do, the video lessons, and it's PD, it's professional learning, it's professional development. It helps you to grow, and as an instructional coach, I've learned so much by watching other teachers. So it's a really good job what I'm doing, mentoring, because you learn so much from what you do with the other teachers, and you get so many ideas. It's a really privileged job to do. Actually, I love it. So that is what we do in terms of observations. The other thing that we do as an instructional coach at Knox is support the new student teacher going through or proficient, or the experienced teacher, or if you're in a different school it might be higher accomplished, or it might be the other levels, or what have you. But basically what we do, the way we do that, so I'm working with a colleague at the moment. He's going through experienced teacher. That started at the start of term 4 last year, and he started gathering his evidence from the start of September, I think. So we meet, we talk about how you might address particular standards. Being in the same department is really easy because we sort of sit next to each other, so you can, when you're talking about normal lessons, you find that, I did such and such today, it's like, you can use that for standard, what have you. And it's really valuable. So those meetings, informal and formal, are really helpful to work out, to set the goals that you're going to do. So if you are thinking, I guess, of going through highly accomplished, it'd be really useful to find someone to buddy up with, just to have conversations about how that might work. And that will help them get familiar with the standards as well. Because it's sort of those conversations, how would you work this? There are evidence guides to help you through that process, to show you what you might use for it. And so as part of the mentoring as well, that process you do lesson observations, you make notes. So in most of the levels, classroom observations can be used as evidence. So if someone comes in the classroom, takes notes on a particular standard, and then you can use that as evidence. And then once all the evidence is gathered, as I've said, sort of start working on the annotations, the references, testimonials that are written to support your application. At Knox, what we do is, Richard's submission at school is due in 6 or 5, so a couple of weeks, so we're finalising it. And then, so at the end of week 5, and then in week 6, the mentors, the instructional coaches get together and look at all the submissions around the school that people are doing, and we sort of assess it and give feedback, saying, well, you might need to work on this, you might need to add something here, before we submit it to this analysis. So before it gets submitted within the school, we're looking, and again, even that is valuable in terms of getting to know the standards and sort of our learning and progressing forward. So that is helpful as well. Okay. So I'll stop there, but got lots of time for questions if anyone's. I'm not sure how much time I've used up to go through. Yes?
So how does that go in line with the whole maintaining your accreditation?
So yeah.
Completely different thing.
So maintaining accreditation is, you have to have particular, Melissa might like to help me on this, but there's a certain number of hours in terms of maintaining accreditation. There's a certain number of hours of PD and research and those sorts of things that you have to do within the 3 or 5 year period that you have it. And so that is where you can use things like this, today's conference, to go towards your hours. So there's a certain number of hours that you do, yeah.
And again, it depends on the level. So proficient and highly accomplished, 50 accredited hours, and then 50 identified hours, but leadership is different. Is that right? Anybody who's doing highly accomplished who knows?
It's over 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hours over 2 years.
It's actually more than that, I think.
Isn't it
Yeah.
20
I think it's actually over
20 hours 5 years.
I think it's over 5 years. Yes, proficient is over 5, highly accomplished is over 5. The only difference is the number of hours of identified hours. You always have to do 100, but I think when you get to leadership, it's 20 hours of identified at the leadership level and 80 of identified hours, but I might be wrong.
So, did you mean was it the 20 hours of registered course?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then 80 of it.
Yeah.
So I know it varies, and I know that I think that's actually right. The thing that has thrown me is that if you are a principal or a headmaster, you will still be registered as a proficient. But principals don't have to do the 50-50 split. They can do an 80-20. So principals only have to do 20 of the registered hours. But they will still, all principals and headmasters and headmistresses are still going to have to do it, and they'll all be registered as a proficient.
So, and that's like any board endorsed course, really.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and again, this is where we're really lucky in that the board has endorsed our professional development hubs as a registered course. So that hour of PD that we do every fortnight at our school can be used for your maintenance of accreditation. I'm not sure about all of them, but a lot of the sessions that we do. And so sort of your PD days as well that we do, because we're board registered, you can pretty much sort of fill up 50 hours with a lot of what we do around the school already where we are. So that's really helpful. Anything?
I just want to get back to when you were talking about lesson observations, because as someone who's kind of new to observing other people's lessons and then trying to give feedback and go through those, it'd just be nice. I don't know, anyone who's got any tips or reflections on how to really support staff on giving that, like with an observation, like the types of things to really look for, to make it a positive process.
I guess that depends. Yeah, well, from my point, it depends what you're doing the observations for. But as anyone else,
for that kind of thing, for achieving, like going through a professional growth kind of system.
So
We're doing it at the moment at our school, and we've got a form that we have to fill in, and it's got all the standards, and you have to tick 3 to 4 that you would like to be observed. And the observer, when they give the feedback, they just mainly talk about what they see. So I saw you demonstrate that standard when you did da 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 da, and we've been told definitely do not use the words you should have. And we've found in our department that that's made it a really positive experience.
That's kind of what we do as well. So we have, before you go in, they say, well, I'd like to work on this area, and so you select those standards, and then you're looking at those standards. And again, it's the way you ask the question. Yeah, it's not so much. I mean, you can. It's trying to get the teacher to work out for themselves what they should have done, so to speak, or how they could have done it better without asking that question. And you sort of ask the right questions by asking them, well, what would have you, if you'd done that again, what would you have done? How would you do it better? What were the students doing at the time? What was that board doing, etc. Yeah.
Andrew, at our school we're doing, it's a little bit different, but we've sort of set up people working together by choice, and they're observing the learning that's happening in the classroom. So as a team, they determine what they call a problem of practice. And so, there might be a team looking at higher order questioning, and another team might look at interaction, another team might look at, feedback. And it's just a matter of going into each other's classrooms, because they're all working together, observing for about 20 minutes, or filming or taking notes just of what's happening in the classroom. So not necessarily per se the teaching, but the learning. Now obviously the learning has an impact on the teaching, because you go, okay, I'm observing higher order questioning, and actually these were all the questions, they were what, and define and outline, and actually we didn't see anything in 20 minutes, and so then the teacher can say, that's interesting. I intended for it, in that 20-minute period there wasn't, so that's in my classroom. Let's have a look at others. Of course, it requires a lot of trust and a lot of feeling like you can put the mirror up to yourself and it's okay, because it's the learning that's happening, and you've got other people, and you're all talking about the evidence of learning, so you can take that emphasis off the teaching, but of course there's a relationship, and it's just small groups voluntarily doing it at the moment, but it's amazing because then it's also not this supervisor working with somebody who's perhaps less experienced, and when you have pre-service teachers in your classroom, you can actually learn a lot from them in terms of their observations of you as well. So I don't know,
which is why
it's a bit different, I know, but
yeah.
it could probably dovetail with this type of system. It's not set up for that, but it probably could.
Yeah, for me, I guess the word, because we're instructional coach, the word coach for me, I mean, to be a good coach, you don't have to have been the best player in a team. Some of the greatest coaches in sporting terms weren't the best players. And so it's just sort of knowing the game, so to speak. It doesn't mean that you're a better teacher because you're helping someone observing a lesson. And if you sort of communicate that to them, you say, I'm not here to, observe and critique. I'm here to help you grow and help me grow as well, because that's the way it works. And that's that partnership approach that I was talking about. And it's that trust. If you can build that trust, it's really helpful. We were talking within our department the other day about, because everyone's sort of comfortable with observations now, and we were thinking, well, we'd like to just within our department, we want an open door policy. If you've got a free period and someone's teaching year 12, you want just to see what they're doing. Well, walk in, sit down and have a look, see how it's going. I think that if you can get that, the learning within a department will be amazing, because you just sort of walk in, sit down. Okay, I'm doing listening with year 12, and I'm struggling for ideas, but I know that someone over there's doing something, so I'll just go in and sit down, and they're fine with me going in. If you can get that open door policy happening, then that would be amazing, I think. Yeah.
Andrew, do you do it cross faculty? Is that how you
Yeah, it is. It is cross faculty. So that's why we're sort of thinking, well, why don't we just do this within our department informally? But yeah, it is like, so within my hub at the moment, I've sort of got English teachers and science teachers. So there's a mixture there, which for me is really good, because you get some good ideas from other subjects as well. So.
How many people are going for highly accomplished? Is there anyone?
There's a few thinking about it, according to the little survey we did. There's a lot thinking about it.
Your result.
Yeah, so according to us, so there's a lot thinking about it. And yeah, I mean, I haven't done it myself, so I can't comment. It's not an expert comment, but I would say that it does take a bit of time, but it would be worth it, definitely.
I mean, there are a lot of schools in terms of like hiring new staff. Are people starting to look for this in like going for jobs like leadership?
Well, I guess these days, yeah, if it's on your resume as highly accomplished, and then someone else hasn't been through accreditation, well, I guess that's going to make some sort of impact, definitely, I think. And I know that a lot of schools just say, yep, get accredited, and you're sort of on your own, whereas where I am is at the other end of this spectrum, like off the radar almost, in terms of the support that people get going through accreditation. And if you can get that support, whether it be formal or informal, that really, really helps you go through. So that's something, I guess, to take back to your schools. If there's not a lot of, support for people getting accredited, then it's about trying to change that culture and saying, well, no, getting accredited, whatever level it is really helpful for everyone, and ultimately it's going to help the students. So, how can we support people a little bit better than may or may not be going on? So, yeah. Thank you.